Hey, this is a cotton thorn, Tetradimia axillaris. He can survive the desert by modifying his leaves into long, slender spines or thorns. All right? And his roots are really good at helping prevent erosion on the slopes. So here's our desert oak from the genus Quercus. All right. Here we got our juniper. We have a little silver cholla. And this guy's called an ironwood. Here's our pancake cactus. Behind me, these are all desert oaks. This one here, though, he's a California juniper. There's some desert oaks here. Here's a pinyon pine. All right. Lots of cool plants up here. So the desert oaks, they can grow as shrubs or trees, depending on the condition. So can our little junipers here as well. Here's an Engelmann's hedgehog cactus, Echinoceros engelmannii. Don't step on him. So here's a desert almond, and here is another one of our tent caterpillars, our caterpillar tents. So the larvae, right? They grow up in this little tent. They escape. See how they're escaping at the back? Then they'll hang upside down. Right? And then they'll turn into little cocoons. And they'll open up into a beautiful, beautiful flying moth. Here's a terrific little California juniper. All sorts of berries on them. Those little berries, now they're really hard. You don't need it yourself as a human. But if you're a deer or a little squirrel or somebody, you can gather these up and you can eat them. So here we have a pinyon pine and we have little pine cones. See that? Little pine cones on our pine tree. Here's an alien desert trumpet. It's called a bottle stopper. It's got this big bulb right here, like a bottle stopper, and he branches out, comes up, got some new growth going in, that'll flower soon. And here you're gonna find this yellow sort of algae or fungus, and this is called a lichen on these rocks. Different colors, you'll get yellow, orange, a little bit reddish. Hey, here's a better alien trumpet. He's all green and coming up. Look at that. Beautiful rosette. The base of his plant, he's got a long stem. Here's this little bottle stopper. He's coming out. He's got tiny, tiny little flowers. Wow. I love this plant. Of course, we have our California juniper here. And we got plenty of our Joshua trees. Yucca brevifolia. Here's our Mojave yucca, Yucca shadigera. All right, so he's related to our Joshua trees. And you notice it kind of curls up here along the margins, this little fiber. Okay, you take that little fiber, you can make baskets or sandals or even nets. And this is our desert's most successful plant in the Mojave and the Sonoran. He's called a Laria tridentata. He's called a creosote bush. And he's basically the medicine cabinet of the Native American Indians. It's pretty much a panacea and a cure-all for anything that penicillin cures today. All right, he's also called a gobernadora because he's the governor of a area. He's like the dominant species out in the desert, so they call him gobernadora. Here, that's called a creosote gall, caused by a little bug called the creosote midge, who burrows in there or lays his larvae. And the creosote causes that little gall, like a callus or a blister, to fight it off. And eventually that gall falls to the ground. This guy's all over the place. Our creosote bush. So our pencil cholla here, so he's called Cylindropuntia ramosissima. He grows about 2 to 5 feet high, and his seeds are actually sterile, all right? So the only way he propagates is when his stems drop, then they take root, or some little animal carries it off or it gets stuck on him. He takes it to a new location. Our pencil cholla. Hey, and this is not unusual, but how about that? A pine tree in the middle of the desert. This is a pinyon pine. All right, look at that trunk. And all that multi-branching going on. Okay. Let's see here, the leaves are the little pines here. See how they kind of all cluster in there? So there's two types of pine trees, or pinyon pine. One has single needles and one has bunch needles, and this guy has bunch needles. How about that? And you see this plant all over the place. This is our jojoba, Semansia chinensis, right? Known as a goat nut, deer nut, coffee berry. So the Native Americans, they'd use the nuts, they grind them up to make coffee. And the ground squirrels love the nuts for their winter food. So this is our California buckwheat, also red top buckwheat, or wild buckwheat. It's Erigonum fasciculatum. And it gets its name fasciculatum because the leaf clusters, they come in fascicles as they work themselves up the stem. A fascicle is a bunch. There's a bunch and a bunch and a bunch. Gets to the top. Here's one of our Mojave yuccas, Yuccas shadigera, and he's blooming away with these beautiful, beautiful flowers. So this guy here, he looks like a holly, but he's like a little desert oak tree. All right, see the leaves here? All right, a little different style of oak tree here, but they're very serrated. They're nice and green, and they're pretty hard and waxy. That helps with transpiration and loss of water. We got all sorts of goodies out here. All right, so this here, call it cat claw. All right, called a cat claw because he's got little thorns on him, like cat's claws. Let's see, get some thorns on him here. See his tiny, tiny little thorns right there? They'll just like rip right into your shirt and your skin and cause you some damage. All right, he's an acacia, actually. It's called Acacia gregii. He's a great host for desert mistletoe. Up here is a closer look at our desert mistletoe. This guy's having berries on him. See? Desert mistletoe, don't eat it because it is a little poisonous. You got little berries here, all right? So the phainopepla bird, black bird with the big fuzzy head, he likes to eat this. And then when he poops out the berries, they're really sticky and they'll stick on the branches. And then that's how this guy moves around the desert, by sticking on other plants. So look at this big palm tree up here. This is called a Washingtonia florifera. He's named after General George Washington, our first president. And this little shrub here, he's called a burrow bush, Ambrosia domosa. Right? He's called that because the burrows like to eat him. Up here, see that guy? He's an Acatillo, Fucaria splendens. He's basically looks like a bunch of sticks coming up from the ground, and then they separate as they get taller, make these beautiful, beautiful orange-like flowers on top. So way up here on the top of the canyon, this is our barrel cactus. Right here. Comes from the genus Phaerocactus. He always leans to the south. Alright. Over here too. So this shrub here, with the yellow flowers, he's called a cheese bush. Right? And if you kind of pull up the flowers here and the leaves, you get it on your fingers, right? It smells like cheese. It smells like Roquefort cheese. That's why he's called a cheese bush. So this yucca, real close to the ground, he's called a blue yucca. A yucca baccata, all right? So he's real bluish like. So up here, little hillside next to our yucca, this guy, he's called a brittle bush. Brittle bush. His name's brittle bush because he's so brittle. Just snaps right off there. See that? It's okay to snap these because this is all last year's flowers. These white guys. And this year, they should be nice and yellow in late spring. So this cactus here is called a pancake cactus. So he's got the flat pads that are round, just like an opuntia. And he's not low to the ground, because that would kind of make him like a beaver tail. So this is an opuntia, and he's related to our prickly pear cacti. So this brush, this is called Mormon tea. And the Mormons, they use this as a beverage, also a tea. And it's used to help reduce kidney problems and stomach ailments as well. And here's our Palo Verde, you'll see around, with the green bark and the chlorophyll in the bark to help with photosynthesis when the leaves fall off.